Coming up tonight, we battle it out in Mexico, travel all the way to Korea for some barbecue, and try to work off some of those extra calories from this voyage. It's all coming up, so let's set sail. Welcome to day number 8 of the cruise view from Onboard the Scarlet Lady. Today was Sunday, October 17th, 2021, and it was our primary port day of this second sailing of the voyage. Today we had one story to touch on that was followed yesterday. That sailor loot that was missing finally showed up on the account today. Got a notice through the messenger portion of the mobile app that it was added and that it should be visible, and when I checked it was in fact on the account now, so that issue has been resolved, was taken care of this morning early on and sent with an update through the messenger app. The one odd thing is they sent it through the messenger app, but the messenger app does not let you know who you're speaking to, just that it is someone in sailor services, so you do not have a person that you can reference back to, and that chat actually self-destructs, so it only remains for a very short period of time and then it's closed out and actually disappears from the app, so you don't even have a record of it there. So that can make it a little bit difficult if you are trying to use the chat function for support. There is no way to kind of track and identify or even retain that information that is provided through there. So as I mentioned, our location today was Costa Maya, Mexico, the same location we were just 5 days ago. And 5 days ago, of course, we arrived into port. We're docked along the long portion of the pier, and then we of course had some rain come through. We did not have any rain today. We had a beautiful morning arrival. We were greeted by the pilot boat about 7:40 in the morning. Started to turn into the pier area about 7:55. And by 8:20, the lines were thrown ashore so that we could be docked and fully tied off by 8:40 in the morning. And that was a slightly later arrival than we had last week, about 20 minutes later than we had last week, because our all clear did not come until 9 a.m. At that time, there was a decent number of people that went ashore, but not too many, mainly people that had excursions booked. There weren't many people going off to explore on their own. It was primarily the excursions that were trying to get ashore in the early morning. And this evening we had a 6:30 all aboard for a 7 p.m. departure. In reality, we had our actual departure about 6:45 with the lines being pulled up and starting to move away from the pier. And it was very quickly, about 10 minutes later at 6:55, that we're clear of the pier and really started to pick up speed and take off again. Last week, we were of course with the Celebrity Summit as well as the MSC Meraviglia. Today, we once again were not alone. We had the Independence of the Seas in port with us. She showed up significantly later than us, arriving on the horizon about 10:30 in the morning, picking up the pilot at 11:30, and then going into a spin at about 11:38 to align with the pier, making her horizontal move to line up right against the pier, and stopped about 11:52 and was fully tied off and docked by noon. This evening her scheduled departure time was 7 p.m. just like ours, and with everyone on the bridge of both ships, that meant that we had an incredible horn battle tonight between the two vessels. This course led to our departure, but it was also for the Indy's departure because she followed us right out afterwards. We were clear of the pier about 6:55, and that is right when her lines started to drop. The moment we were out of the way, the lines began to fall, and by 7 o'clock she let out one blast of her horn and began to move away off to sea as well. For weather today, we had a sunrise at 6:45 this morning. Could see a bit of the remains of that when we got up to watch that arrival. And we had a sunset tonight at 6:27 p.m. That one was harder to see with the heavy cloud cover that was around at that time. Our conditions today were incredibly hot. We had a lot of cloud cover, but it wasn't entirely cloudy today. And there were a few spotted showers that were visible. There was one right on the horizon over the ocean right when we pulled in that was visible. And tonight as we were pulling away, there were a couple storms on the horizon that you could see over the land, dropping some rain and thunderstorms in the area. For us though, in the actual port and on the ship, there was no rain today. We stayed dry and kept it all away the entire day. And our temperatures were 89 for the high and 75 for the low. It was an incredibly warm day. A lot of people felt it was way too hot to be out in the port, so that did bring a lot of people back to the ship because that heat was excessive today. Even if you were out in the morning, it was too hot to be out in that port. And the winds were at 9 miles per hour, but they didn't do too much to counter that heat. So taking a look at our lineup today, it was a very light day. It was a port day, and those mean even fewer activities than the other days of the sailing. So for me, it started off just after that sunrise arrival. I got off the ship about 9:30, so not too long afterwards, and took some time to just take a quick walk through the entire port, film a walking tour. There's already a panning tour available that you can check out. The walking tour will be coming out shortly, and that took from 9:30 until about 10:45 to complete. There was almost nobody in the port. It was incredibly empty. The beach was entirely deserted even after being there for a little bit. Nobody actually showed up to use the beaches, so it was an incredibly nice day if you wanted to spend time in the port. There were a couple things that I took notice of today. When we were here last time, they did have the free Wi-Fi throughout, which now I noticed there are signs that say that you can get free Wi-Fi with purchase, so it appears they're going to the model of pushing to actually spend money to get some of the benefits. Same with the chairs around the pool, as well as the chairs on the beach. They now require you to have a drink or food purchase in order to use any of those, which used to just be open to any guests in the port. And while I was out at the port, I could hear the sirens and the bells going off from Scarlet Lady because the crew were on board performing a drill. It was a relatively quick one. It started about 10 o'clock and was over by maybe 11:15, 11:30 at the latest. So not too long of one. They did do the full gathering your muster stations and prepare, as well as escorting guests to the actual lifeboats. They lowered the lifeboats on the port side of the ship, brought them down to loading position, tested and practiced getting passengers in and out of the lifeboats, but then they never actually lowered them into the water. I'm not sure what the requirements are around doing that. I know they must do these drills more frequently. Usually it's about once a week, so not sure when their last one was, but it was the first one during the 8 days that we're on board, and they did not lower even a single of the boats into the water, so none of them got testing today. So I'm not sure if they've done that recently. They are relatively new, and they perhaps do not have to do them today, but normally we've seen that every time there was a lifeboat drill. Some of the lifeboats were in the water and crew got some practice. Things got tested out to ensure they're in working condition. And then came back to the ship, explored the empty Scarlet Lady, and it was very empty today, emptier than it was on days last sailing, and it was not only empty here but empty in the port, so I'm not sure where all the guests went. It certainly seemed like it was a lot busier with the excursion time this morning than there typically have been, so I think a lot of people this cruise opted for those excursions compared to previously. After a quick lunch up in the galley, continuing to try to hit every single restaurant on board. I think I'm down to 3. I think the dock, the burger bar up in the galley, as well as the Sun Club Cafe up on the pool deck are the 3 that I have to get still in this voyage, but as of today, every other venue I have dined at so far. So I took a quick lunch in the galley today, and then I headed to the pier because, of course, the Independence Seas had arrived after I returned to the ship, and I needed to see how she compared. And as she docked alongside of us, it was a very unique view. Her top deck aligned right with ours. The decks were perfectly in unison, so you could get a really neat view across from one floor on ours to one floor on her. one of the big deals with multiple ships in port is always the jealousy. Every cruise ship, every cruise line wants their ship to be the most desired one in port. They push different aspects out there. Of course, we've seen on the MSC Seaside where they would actually hold pier parties in order to get people interested. Today was not the best showing for Scarlet. Not because of anything wrong with her. She looked beautiful. A lot of people were interested in her. But actually because one of the worst signs is when your own guests lose interest in your ship in favor of another ship. And that is what occurred this evening. Because while Scarlet is an adult-only ship, there are a lot of different bars, a lot of different lounges. There is no television on board. There's no networks beyond news. And that meant there's no sports on board. There isn't even a sports bar, which is kind of unusual because even when they potentially in the future get those contracts for the different networks to air on board the ship, they will not have a sports bar to air any events. They also do not have a TV up on the pool deck. There's a big, very clear-cut rectangle into the ship right above the pool when you're facing forward looking across it. Seems like the perfect spot for a television, almost like it was designed for one to be there, but one was never installed. So there is no real venue to hold any events or activities to watch a game on board Scarlet. And even if there was, there isn't an option to do it because there is no sports available on board right now. On the Independence Seas, on the other hand, she had an outdoor TV above the pool deck with a football game on, and her pool deck was pretty crowded, but our pool deck was deserted except for the railing facing the Independence Seas. That was lined all the way along the pool deck with individuals trying to watch that football game from the ship next door. So that is something you typically don't want to see, all those people looking and wishing they were on another ship, but unfortunately that did happen tonight because of the lack of sports on board Scarlet. Sure, that'll change in the future as they get their television contracts in order, but without a venue, it's still going to be hard to really give people an opportunity to sit down, gather, celebrate, and watch those events. Following our departure, I then had our dinner for tonight, which was a reservation at Gunbae, the final of the 6 dining venues on board, the 6 reservation required sit-down dining venues on board. And that one is a bit different than the others. It is a group shared table experience. You are seated with another group of individuals to fill out a table because the center of each table is actually the cooking surface for the meats and the seafood that you choose for your main entree. So you're given your starters and those can be shared or used individually, but then the waiter will come out and they will cook your food right on the center of the table for you and get them to the desired readiness to serve when it is ready. The highlight though is probably the dessert, which is another ice cream dessert. There's a lot of ice cream on Scarlet. Of course, Lick Me Till I Scream is probably the best ice cream you can find, land or sea, but each of the dining rooms seem to have some kind of ice cream option as well. And that is a special kind of soft serve. You can get either the Sakai or the black sesame or even a twist of the two. Our entire table instead opted for 2 bowls of ice cream each, one of each flavor, so that we could truly taste and enjoy each individually, know what they're like. And that comes with a series of toppings that you can put on your sundae yourself, including black sesame granola, mini mochi, and a miso caramel that was absolutely delicious. And I've seen some reviews saying do not do the twist because the black sesame is terrible and you don't want to ruin the other with it. So that is why we did the separate bowls, and in the end everybody at my table at least enjoyed both flavors equally and finished them all off, so there wasn't really a reason for splitting them versus the twist, but it definitely allowed us to truly appreciate each individual flavor and understand how they differed. So following dinner, I then took and went to a pair of the production shows. Started with another showing of Duel Reality. This time I sat up on the top floor looking down on the event. Got there about 5 minutes after it was scheduled to start. That event always starts at least 5 minutes late, so it's good to be aware of that because if you're running late, know that you can still get there. They do stop you from entering and you'll have to instead go up to the top floor instead, but you do have a few extra minutes because of the way that that event takes place, and it stops anyone from getting in because the entrance to the theater actually requires you to walk across that stage to go to any of the seats. So they give you extra time, about 5 to 7 minutes, and that is plenty of time I think for most to get there and catch that show, and that is a great one. Watching it from above didn't really add or remove anything. I think the main thing it did was it allowed the aerialists to be highlighted a little more. You got a much clearer view of them, really understood what was going on with them. So I think the aerialist scene is probably the biggest aspect that is improved with the top floors, so probably better off staying on the bottom floor as long as you're able to get into there. Following that, I then went from the Red Room right over to the Manor because there was another showing of Never Sleep Alone. This was the scheduled showing for me, the sailing. So I went to check that out once more, watched it. Of course, that is an interactive show. Slightly inappropriate, definitely a bit uncomfortable if you're not into that stuff. But a lot of it is live, it's improv, it's random, you don't know what's going to go because of the fact that every time they bring a passenger onto the stage, that is a variable they can't control, don't know what's going to come out of their mouth and where the show is going to go. So when you see it more than once, there are a lot of aspects, primarily the singing part that is kind of standardized, stays the same every time, just like watching a regular show. But then there are all those guest interaction segments that is probably about 2/3 of the show, and those of course will vary every time you see it, because whoever they get to pull on stage is going to dictate where the show is going from that point forward. So that was an 11 o'clock show, ended at midnight, and we are turning the clocks forward again tonight at 2 a.m., about an hour from when I'm filming this right now, and that is just like we had last sailing. The night before the first sea day, clocks went one way. Night before the second sea day, they went back the other way. So we are getting ready for return to the East Coast, back to normal time, back to Miami at the end of this for the final time. We are slowly getting closer to that moment. So then moving on from the lineup, then our daily dine for today, we're going to take a look at the venue I had for dinner, and that is Gunbae. If you're looking for a social dining experience on board, Gunbae is the place to go. Located at the aft of Deck 15, through the galley, the Korean barbecue venue differs from the other restaurants with its open layout featuring exclusively large tables with massive windows offering views out to the ocean. When guests arrive, they are seated in groups to fill each table that is uniquely designed with a large cooking surface in the middle and ventilation system overhead, the reason for its top deck location. Once greeted by their server, sailors can order from an array of drink choices, including the traditional sakis. But everyone is also offered a free shot in order to set the table up for the drinking games that your server will lead your group through as well as participate in. You'll then be served a variety of sides that you can order or leave up to the server to bring a few things out to sample. You can select what mains you want cooked up on the grill and either grill them yourself or have the server prepare the items properly for you. You're free to try as many items as you'd like and as much as you'd like, so don't hesitate to ask your server to prepare some more. After the feature of the meal, then comes dessert, with a pair of unique ice cream flavors to pick from, along with a series of toppings to make your own sundae to end the meal. So like every other dining venue, Gunbae brings another unique dining style and experience that you won't want to miss out on. So that is a unique one compared to other ones, especially unique because of its location up on the top deck, actually located within the galley. And that was something where today the lunch in the galley was incredibly full. Almost every table was taken, so it'll be interesting to see when the ship is at full capacity if they run into issues with the location of Gunbae and the fact that it takes up such a big portion of the galley. And we may see that venue used as a seating location in the future. It seemed like they were testing that out on the one day, or at least allowing passengers into there. But its location up on Deck 15 is very different from all the other ones down on the decks of 4 and 5. And of course, being on 15 means it's in an unusual location up on the top all by itself. But that also means that you have a different location to go to for once, instead of all of them being in the exact same locations. Then from there, our daily venue for today, we're going to take a look at some of the places to work out on board by looking at the athletic club. With a focus on healthy living, Scarlet Lady has no shortage of athletic venues on board. Most centered around the aft of the ship on decks 15 through 17, the traditional gym is split to either side of the well-being pool on 15. This pair of venues, known as the B Complex, features Burn and Bike on the port side, with a variety of equipment focused on burning calories through activities like running and riding. With views of the ocean and the well-being pool area, this space is better lit and more scenic than the traditional gym. A separate spin room hosts a series of classes that can be signed up for through the mobile app. The starboard side B complex is Build and Balance, with equipment focused on weightlifting and balance building. A dedicated room hosts various classes, including suspension classes. Moving up to deck 16, heading aft from the Sun Club on the port side, you'll find the boxing ring, along with a variety of apparatuses. From on deck or the lobby, you can access a room known as the training camp, where additional classes and private sessions can take place. Continuing aft, you'll find a playground of toys for sailors to enjoy as the sea drifts by. The sports area connects the two sides of the ship with a fully protected court that is safe from the wind and netted off to allow a variety of games without the risk of anything going overboard. At the very back of the ship, you'll find the athletic club, with its own bar serving a variety of drinks to meet sailor needs and make it the perfect place for games with an outdoor setting. As an extension of the Sun Club, it also features a hot tub on each side of the deck, many sunbeds, including the largest at sea, and most impressively, the net, a large catamaran-style netting that sailors can relax on high above the ocean. Heading up the stairs on either side leads to the Perch, a round space located on deck 17 above the athletic club, offering incredible views out to sea, while creating a space to hold morning yoga sessions and afternoon sunbathing with added privacy. Surrounding the Perch, the runway circles the aft half of the ship with unobstructed views out to sea, including an elevated area that passes right over the well-being pool. Making just 6 laps around the runway equals a full mile, but with the view continuously changing, it's easy to lose track of how far you've actually walked. So the athletic club is obviously a big area, and different than other ships, there are no jungle gyms, there's no flow rider, there are none of the gimmicky activities to try to get kids to get some exercise. It is dedicated to individuals who know how to exercise and want to exercise instead. Something a little bit more unique and different from what the other cruise lines do. So that about does it for this day. Tomorrow, of course, is a sea day. Hopefully a little more activity going on, and of course tomorrow night will be a big day of activities. As long as the weather holds out, we'll finally get to see what the Scarlet Night Pool Party looks like, as tomorrow is once again the second sailing and time for Scarlet Night. So thanks for watching. I'm Derek Cohn, and stay tuned for the links.